These are my archetypes. These are the archetypes. If you listen to The Ringer, NBA Show, any of their podcasts, anyone, Windhorse, and the Hoop Collective, these are the terms that they use. I didn't pull these out of my ass, okay? Okay, I did. I pulled some out of my ass. Or I renamed some of them. But the rim runner is tricky. Because there is really no definitive rim runner. We all sort of have our own definition. When I think of rim runner, I think of Derek Jones Jr. I think of Derek Jones Jr. running down the court, catching a lob, and dunking. Maybe you think of Shaedon Sharpe. I think of Shaedon Sharpe as well. But you may consider him more of a slasher. You know what's crazy? When I did research for this, I wanted to see what other YouTubers considered a rim runner. There's like one video about rim running. And you know who the example was? And this was also the example in multiple other articles that I read. Rudy Gobert was the rim runner. And I'll tell you what I saw. They had video footage of Rudy being a rim runner, running down the court while he was on the Jazz, catching a lob and dunking. Rudy Gobert used to be fast. Maybe you guys remember that. But Rudy Gobert was a rim runner. So you have a couple different types of rim runner. You have the pick and roll rim runner. Like Jalen Duren is kind of a pick and roll rim runner. John Morant and Shaedon Sharpe are slasher rim runners. They run to the rim with the ball. Malik Monk, transition rim runner. He'll run down the whole damn court with the ball. With one hand and dunk it. So there's different styles. And then if you look at the examples on my slide, the one that's in italics, that is my historical example. So Blake Griffin is my historical example of a rim runner. Because traditionally when I would think of a rim runner, I think of a guy catching a log pass. That's me. Ooh, John Collins, another great example. Also, let me know. You know I reply to every comment. I ain't got nothing going on. I have no schedule, no plans. I just sit and I wait for comments to come in. So please, let me know. The deflator. This is the... We need my cat. She's blind and she doesn't know where I am. She doesn't know where I am, so she can't jump on my lap, so I have to pick her up. Here she is. The deflator is the guy that dribbles and dribbles and dribbles. And I talked about this on the What Slaps show. DeMar DeRozan, dribble, put his ass into a guy, keep dribbling, face up a guy, keep dribbling, dribbles and dribbles, gets his own shot. That's what he does well. He gets to his spot, he shoots it, and he's automatic from his spot. Everyone hates this type of player, right? Everyone hates this type of player. Everyone likes their 3-and-D wings. People hate the dribblers. D'Angelo Russell, for good reason. People hate on Julius Randle, even though he had a great playoffs. They don't like guys that get their own shot. They don't like the ISO ballers. The Kobe Bryants. Kobe Bryant was the king ISO baller. He got the ball at the end of every game. I did a video on clutch. This was a couple years ago, and I made the case that Kobe Bryant was actually like not clutch at all, and the reason being, if you look at his clutch stats, he demanded the ball at the end of every game, so much so that every team knew they were going to go to Kobe. They'd double team him, but Kobe wouldn't pass because he wanted the shot. He was Kobe Bryant. Kind of interesting, but to that point, you do want a deflator at the end of the game. Because if there's not a lot of time on the clock, you don't want to pass the ball. You don't want to do a motion offense when there's not a lot of time, when you have to get a shot off. You want full control of the clock. How do you do that? Give it to one guy. Give it to one guy with his eye on the clock who's going to get a shot off at the buzzer. So a deflator isn't bad. I know you. I know the type of guy you are. You're like, yeah, these guys, I like to watch the people pass their ball around and get it around the horn. It's a fundamental basketball. And you're the same motherfucker that says they take too many threes. I know you. I know your type. But Brandon Ingram, another guy in this category. Probably already said that. Probably can move off from the slide. The enforcer. Now, the enforcer is less so about their style of basketball and the way they play, but more so actions on the court. Idea being physically imposing, being threatening, intimidating, cheap fouls, get the other team on their toes, throw them off their game. A lot of people hate these type of players. I think the only ethical enforcer is Steven Adams. Because Steven Adams will back up his guys if somebody else instigates it. I don't believe Steven Adams is going to do that. He has set some gnarly screens, though. I should have it up here, but you remember the... Man, do I have to edit this into the video? Do I have to edit in Steven Adams' screen on Patrick Beverley? I guess I got to do it. What's the timestamp? I don't know. That's for me. That's to mark the timestamp. I got to edit that in. Steven Adams setting a screen for Russell Westbrook and then sending Patrick Beverley into 1000 BC. So the enforcers are guys that are there to basically create a sense of danger, create a sense of fear in the other team. Bill Laimbeer, Charles Oakley. We don't really see them as much anymore. We still got Draymond. We still got Dylan Brooks. They're out there hitting people in the nuts. They don't not exist, but back in the day, Charles Oakley and Bill Laimbeer would clean people's clocks at the paint. So you didn't want to drive to the rim. Yeah, you get the foul, but you didn't know how it would end up for you. You knew it would be painful. I don't like it. This is the way it was. I don't approve. Not a Charles Oakley guy. Not a Bill Laimbeer guy. Never been. Rim protectors, classic centers. Big guys, block shots. They protect 15 feet away from the basket. The circumference, the radius, that's theirs. The better the rim protector, the more feet. Rudy Gobert, best rim protector. These are the guys that can't shoot threes. These are the non-stretch bigs. And what they have to do, these are your Daniel Gaffers, your Rudy Goberts, your Jarrett Allens. Dwight Howard is my classic example. But one thing, a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I think a part of rim protection, defensive rebounds. I think you got to be scooping to be an excellent rim protector. A lot of people would say, well, once the shot's up, the rim protection part's over. Now you're just rebounding. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I still think rebounding the ball, you got to end the rim protection period by rebounding the ball. How about that? I got your ass. So that's what the rim protector is. It's basically big centers that get rebounds, block shots, but can't do much else, right? They can cover. They're basically covering when a guy gets beat in the perimeter. And it's definitely a good skill to have. Here's the thing, though. You can't have a non-shooter out there with a rim protector, and that's always the problem. So a team, they couldn't play Jarrett Allen with Isaac Okoro, That just didn't work. You can really only have one guy out there that can't shoot at a time. Make sense? Let's move on. 3D&D specialist. So let's pretend Mikal Bridges was the Mikal Bridges in Phoenix. He's still a good defensive player, but he was not who he was in Phoenix. A lot of people say, man, back in, he went to Brooklyn, he got soft. I think he did a little bit. He also isn't the three-point specialist he used to be either. OG, so the Knicks have 2 3-and-D guys. Basically what this is you can guard the three-point shot. You can defend. You are laterally quick. Nobody's getting around you. And you're tall. You got to be kind of tall to be a 3-and-D specialist because you got to be able to get a hand up in a guy's face. 3-and-D specialists sort of guard each other. They're just guys on the perimeter guarding each other from shooting threes and driving and kicking. Robert Covington is the OG 3-and-D specialist. Lou Dort, 3-and-D specialist. These guys do not get their own shot, unlike the deflators. I call them the deflators, because they dribble the air out of the ball. They dribble so much, which I kind of stole from Ryan Russillo. Great artists steal, and so do I. So they're catch and shoot guys. They play each other. What else is there to know? Maybe they can dribble, maybe they can't. So I'd put Jaylen Brown seems taller than he's listed. I would put, but okay, of course, 3-and-D specialist. It's sort of an insult because it's sort of what you're saying is they can't do much else. They're not much of a playmaker, but they can sit in the corner and shoot a 3 and then guard another guy from doing that exact same thing. So a lot of people might think calling Jaylen Brown a 3-and-D specialist is a little bit of an understatement. A little disrespectful. The microwave scorer comes off the bench. The idea being they're similar to the deflator because you bring them out there because you want them to get points quick. And you need them to get points almost by themselves or be so good at creating a shot for another player, being able to get into the lane so deep that they can dish it off. Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford. Basically every sixth man of the year is the microwave scorer. A guy who can come off the bench with a significantly weaker set of players on his own team who can play defense while he just goes and scores while the starters are sitting out. Ty Jerome, Jordan Clarkson, excellent. I even think a lot of the deflators, I think as they get older, like a DeMar DeRozan, personally, I think he'd be a great sixth man on a team. Because the microwave scorers and the deflators, they don't work well as an ensemble. They're out there to do it on their own. So, and there's different types of microwave scorers too, because Naz Reid is a microwave scorer and Ty Jerome. But they're a little more get me the ball and let me shoot microwave scorers. Ultimately, what you want from a microwave scorer is a guy that the plays don't need to be very long. You kind of want them to be short. You kind of just want these guys to get open and get a quick bucket because the longer the play is, the more likely for that second unit to devolve. And a lot of these microwave scorers, they don't want to start. They want to be six men because they want to go out on the court and they want all the slop for themselves. They want all the looks. I remember Montrezl Harrell, he didn't want to be a starter. He wanted the six-man award too. I think Lou Will was the same way. They knew, I'm not going to be an all-star, you know. Lou Will might have had a chance to be an all-star. Trez didn't. But they're like, I want to be the sixth man of the year. I can get a trophy. I can be remembered. I ain't going to be an all-star, but I can be a sixth man. So, yeah, and I think Kuminga definitely got that. And I think that's one of the reasons why he isn't signed yet is because he doesn't play well in an ensemble on a team, which is very much what the Golden State Warriors do. He's very much, let me get on the court and give me that. Now we got the floor general. So y'all already know Chris Paul, the ultimate floor general. So it's someone that passes way more than they shoot. Even Tyrese Halliburton, I would describe, even though he does score a lot, he is absolutely a floor general. Even though his team plays in transition a lot. And one thing you would sort of imagine with a floor general is calling the play, you know, bringing the ball down slowly, calling the play, setting up the offense. But I would still put Halliburton in there, even though they're a transition team, because they're still running the play. And he is still managing the offense. Tyus Jones, another great floor general. And the sign of a good floor general, doesn't turn the ball over. High basketball IQ, has the best vision on the court, knows where everyone is. Knows where everyone is even when the view is obstructed. So I think also their responsibility is managing the game as well. Understanding, you know, do we need a two-pointer? Do we need a three-pointer? Do we need to foul? Sort of being the coach on the floor while the coach isn't there on the floor. That's my thought. So John Stockton, you know, leads the league in overall. What are the all-time assists and steals? John Stockton was an incredible floor general. incredible IQ. One step ahead of everyone. As is Chris Paul. Two of the greatest point guards. Who do you think's better? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna engagement bait. Who y'all you gotta throw one in the trunk and you gotta marry one. Chris Paul, John Stockton. Let me know in the comments. I think I nailed that. Stretch big. Okay, so here's the thing about the stretch big. Fairly new. So I put Kevin Love as the stretch big. I imagine a lot of you aren't crazy about that, but when I dug through the archives, I think he's the best original example that isn't Dirk Nowitzki, because I had to use Dirk Nowitzki again for another slide. Kevin Love at one point was shooting like 7 threes a game as a power forward who's 6'10". Brook Lopez became a stretch big. Al Horford became a stretch big. Miles Turner became a stretch big. Now, the only problem with stretch bigs, and one thing you'll notice, is they're not particularly great at the other skills of being a center. Lopez, Turner, Horford, not incredible rebounders. So you sort of have to say, hey, you know what? Our center can spread the floor. Because that's the idea, right? With a rim protector, they are incredibly good on defense, but when it gets on the offensive side of the floor, good luck getting to the rim, because that center is going to be in there the whole time. Because he's not going to move to the perimeter, because if he gets the ball and he needs to shoot a three, it's just don't. He's going to shoot like 10% from three, if that. So with the stretch big, it's nice because you can play a non-shooter. Let's say if you have a guy like, you have a non-shooter like, I can't even think of an example. I've been out of the game for so long. But you have a defensive guy, or like a Mitchell Robinson would be a center that is a non-shooter. So you could play, you can play Cat, who is a stretch big, with Mitchell Robinson, because he can be that rim protector, and you can have two bigs out on the floor because one of them on offense can be at the perimeter and give Robinson space in the paint, because you got to guard Cat. You can spread the floor a bit. So you're always sort of sacrificing. Cat, not a stretch big. You know why? Because he can shoot threes, but he's also a really great rebounder. So a lot of this, you fall into an archetype not only by your skill set, by your lack thereof skill. So, yeah. That's it. And they have better playmaking abilities too than most centers. Than your, big rim protectors like Rudy Gobert, your Vaca Zubac, and your Jared Allens, So Mobley is like a stretch big, while Jared Allen could be on the floor and guard everything 15 feet away from the basket. I just came up, now I'm just, man, I can talk in circles, man. I can do laps. I can do laps that look a little bit like different laps. You think you're on a trail when you're really just doing laps on a track with me. Do you fall asleep to this? I feel like this would be good meditative noise. Not to be self-deprecating or make fun of you for watching the show, but let's talk about two-way players. Oh, now that we're on the two-way with Kawhi, I did a live on the Kawhi no-show jobs. Kawhi going full Tony Soprano contracting work. But I also talk about it on the Patreon. The Patreon's where the real stuff is. That you won't sleep. You won't sleep on that. It's $2 a month. You get 4 episodes a month, 1 a week. So that's there. Talked a lot about the Kawhi situation, which I have a lot of opinions on. Kawhi, I blame Kawhi. How about that? No one's blaming Kawhi. I'm blaming Kawhi. So, a player who is equally good on offense and defense, but is also an incredible player. You can't just be equally mid, right? Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was equally good on offense and defense. Michael Jordan was not. Michael Jordan was a way better offensive player. He was a better defensive player than Scottie, though. You catch my drift? Michael Jordan is not an archetype. He's just perfect. He's just the man of our dreams. But take the platonic idea of Kawhi Leonard. Take the platonic idea of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Basically what I'm saying is take them 7 years into their career when they were equally good on offense and defense and they were winning Defensive Player of the Year awards. So Jalen Williams, I would say right now, is potentially the best two-way player in the league. I think that's fair. Incredible on offense and defense. And you also have to be big. To be an incredible two-way player, you have to have some size because you need to be able to be laterally quick on the perimeter. But when a big man is backing his ass up into you, you got to be able to be strong as an oak. So two-way guys are typically 3s and 4s, potentially a 5 as well. So that's my thought on the actual like two-way exceptionalist. It's funny, I'm sort of ranking the archetypes now that I'm thinking about it. What is like the most premium type of archetypal player? Because two-way is really good and the next one's pretty good too. No, it's not. Glue guy. The glue guy is the guy who does the stuff that nobody wants to do. That's it. Basically filling in the gaps. Setting screens, calling things out, taking a charge, guarding the other team's best player, all that stuff. All the stuff that Aaron Gordon had to do. Probably the sweatiest guy at the end of the game. Plays a lot. So to sort of summarize this for you, think about why Jaylen Brown wasn't selected to be on Team USA. Derek White was. Who's a better player, Jaylen Brown or Derek White? Well, it's Jaylen Brown. But did they need another star? Did they need another guy who needed the ball? No. They're like, we just need a guy who's going to try to facilitate better basketball for LeBron James, Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry. And that is a glue guy. So that's why Derek White was asked. These are skills very similar. Well, Shane Battier. Remember when they wrote that article, Sports Illustrated, the No Stats All-Star? It's the type of guy who might be the most important player on a team, but never touch the ball during the game. He may have never touched the ball, but the whole entire offense and defense could have only existed through his presence. So here, I said I had to re-record this. I forgot to plug in the mic. So this is actually the second time I'm doing this. So the glue is transparent, right? So you don't really notice the glue, but if it's not there, everything falls apart. The glue guy, Shane Battier, Aaron Gordon, Draymond as well. Also, I wanted to bring that up. Another part of being the glue guy is your communication skills and your IQ. Because think about Draymond, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, but he knows what he's doing, and he knows how to communicate and make sure the defense runs efficiently, and there's no gaps, which is the most important part of defense, the way it moves as a unit. And the hustler is very similar to the glue guy. These are the guys, these are always like undrafted guys, very low picks. We got TJ McConnell, Alex Caruso, Josh Hart, Dyson Daniels, guys that can pick off passes. These are the pesky defenders. These are the offensive rebounders. Because people don't consider the fact that defensive rebounds are actually easy to get because you're closer to the basket. And a lot of times they bounce off, and a lot of teams don't put pressure to get those second chance points and don't try to get offensive rebounds. So teams get lazy. And that's where the hustlers come in. Because teams get lazy, and then all of a sudden you'll see a sloppy pass. You'll see a guy not really go box out. There goes an offensive rebound. There's a putback. Oh, there's a interception. There's an interception and a fast break point. So that's what the hustlers do. Jose Alvarado, hustler. Steals the ball, sneaks up on people when people aren't paying attention. So he keeps the other team honest. And that's what hustlers are to me. They also take charges. They recover loose balls. They make it so every team has to bring their A game, lest they lose. So that's the hustler to me. That's what that is. They bleed. Look how messed up his face is, man. I hope that's not AI. I hope I didn't download an AI GIF. Oh, be in trouble. Point forward. Okay, so point forward in the next one, you have to be. It literally. Man, I could really go into more words on this, but it's really just a point guard that's big. It's like an oversized point guard. It's a guy that can bring the ball up the floor and distribute, has playmaking abilities, but also has the athleticism of a forward. So they don't necessarily have to be a scorer, because I didn't include Giannis on here. I made him the two-way player. That's not offensive, right? Just because I would need Giannis to have a little bit more range before I called him a point forward. That's going to sound really disrespectful, because I know he brings the ball up the court. And, it's very effective to have the point forward, because you got probably your best player with the ball in his hands immediately. So Larry Bird, I wanted to say was probably like the first, even though Magic Johnson was technically a point guard. And technically Larry Bird was a small forward, but Johnson had the size of a forward and the skill of a guard. So the nice thing about having a point forward is they can beat anyone on the perimeter. They can get to the rack. So if a big man comes out and he's like, I'm big too, I'm going to guard the point forward, he can drive past him and there's no one at the rack. But then a guard who's like, I'm shifty, I'm quick, I'm going to lock this motherfucker down, he can shoot right over him. So LeBron, Luka, Tatum, absolutely. A young Ben Simmons. Yeah, Ben Simmons could have been an incredible point forward, but I heard he's retiring, which is crazy to me. I think he's retiring because he won't take a league minimum, and that's a bummer. Swallow your pride, man. Pride sucks, man. Pride never did nothing for no one. The unicorn. And I'm stretching my definition because I think a lot of people would just say Kristaps Porzingis is the unicorn. Wemby is a unicorn. But what I'm saying a unicorn is, it's a 7-foot player that isn't lumbering around and has an incredible basketball skill set. Because it does feel like every time we get a 7-footer, it comes with the idea that they're going to get hurt all the time and they're just not going to be very coordinated. So I'm saying Joel Embiid, a guy that can do everything and happens to be 7 foot. Wembanyama, a guy who can get to the rack. And also, all these players, another thing that they have to be able to do is be the rim protector. Because God chose very few of us to be NBA rim protectors. He decided to give some of us an extra 1.5 feet of height and say, hey, I've chosen you, my child, to be protecting the rim in the NBA. So I didn't put Lauri Markkanen in here because he's not really that. He doesn't really do that, even though I do believe he is 7 foot. So, and Durant is absolutely a rim protector. Jokic is a rim protector. Maybe they're not your favorite rim protectors, but they do that job. So these are the players that are incredibly skilled, and you'd never know that they're carrying around an extra couple inches of top heaviness. So the unicorn of the archetypes, I chose Dirk Nowitzki. I didn't want to make him a stretch big because I truly believe he is a unicorn. He is a guy with that basketball skill set. Now, was he really much of a rim protector? No. But I still felt like I owed him the respect to make him the OG unicorn. Cat also had to put him in this category. Very versatile skill set. Is he the greatest rim protector? No, he's not. But I still felt like I had to put him in here. I would say Jokic. I think Jokic defines it the best, but I had to put Dirk as the first. Because I was doing, I wanted to pay homage to the G's. So, I think the unicorn's the last one. That's it. But thanks for being here. There is a Patreon, like I said, $2 a month, and then I do a episode every Saturday. So, and I talk about stuff from the past usually, but now that it's starting soon, I'm going to talk about fresh stuff. I'm not going to talk about old stuff anymore. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping another scandal happens so I can have something to talk about. I was able to riff forever. I was not struggling for that last Patreon. So, like the video. If you're still hanging out, like the video. It always helps. I always forget people to encourage to do it. Because you're mothers, eat a corn dog.